With interest rates rising again and again and again, it's no doubt causing financial pressures to most people where cost of living has skyrocketed the past few months. I witnessed this firsthand as a project manager as I see construction costs went through the roof, causing the collapse of giant construction firms when nothing stands in the way of inflation. So in these times of financial uncertainty, adopting wise money habits in our daily lives is more important than ever before. As a project manager managing multi-million-dollar projects, here are 5 money habits I've learned from work to weather the storm. But before we begin, if you have enjoyed the video, hit the like button and subscribe. It will help the channel tremendously. 1. Cash is king. Most companies try to hold on to cash as much as possible to ensure they have reliable and available money to pay for immediate needs like equipment, staffing, operating costs, and other necessities. This is because the rising interest rate is causing daily expenses to rise, and when expenses are more than available income, it becomes a problem, especially when there are expenses that you are contractually obliged to pay or locked in to pay, such as monthly rental to the landlord. The term cash flow is often used, and it is defined as money flowing in and out of business. Generally speaking, companies are more likely to fail due to not having enough cash on hand to keep the place running compared to not making enough profits. For me, having cash on hand provides a protective buffer as an emergency fund if there is a recession or a market downturn. It gives me a sense of security and a peace of mind. Aside from that, I have noticed since the start of the pandemic, there has been a rise of merchants, especially in the food and beverage and services sector, charging a fee for using credit cards. Over the long term, these do add up, and in instances where a fee is charged for using credit card, I would much prefer to pay with cash. 2. Sleep on it. Often running a major project with many moving parts and involving hundreds of people, there eventually will be problems and opportunities. The one thing that I have learned is instead of jumping into action and doing what the moment felt like the right thing to do, it is much better to consult with others to seek options, stepping back to weigh in the pros and cons and sleep on it before making the final decision. In our everyday lives, one of the consumer behaviors is impulse buying, which is an unplanned decision to buy a product or pay for a service. Research found that emotions and feelings play an important role in triggering this action caused by seeing the hype of the product or a promotion message. I know this is a difficult one, we all have been there before, but trust me, do your research and consult with others to look at options to make sure you get the most value for money. Step back to weigh in the good and the bad. I'm sure one of the bad is a hole in your wallet, but more importantly, sleep on it so your head is in the right space before spending that sweet cash. 3. Track your expenses. One of the ways I have been keeping my project's financial position on track is to schedule fortnightly check-in with my project accountant. Having that regular appointment in my calendar keeps me accountable to make sure I keep records of all income and expenses. I find that keeping all my paperwork organized from the start motivates me to continue to keep it organized. In my meeting with the project accountant, I would then compare the project finances against the budget, and if there are any overspend, which is okay, we then come up with a strategy to pull it back on track. The reason I'm not too worried about overspend at this juncture is because I know the overspend occurred the past 2 weeks since my previous budget check, so I am not expecting a big amount. Therefore, the more regular you have a budget check-in, the lower your risk of overspending. With my personal expenses, when my income hit my bank account, the first thing I would do is to make payments to all entity that has an interest tag to it, which includes my mortgage, my credit cards, bills, and fees. I would set aside a portion for investments and separately cash saving. What remains are groceries, dining out, holidays, home maintenance, and lifestyle costs, which is the bulk of what we really need to control so we have a good cash flow. Going back to my first point, where cash is king. By keeping track of expenses, firstly, you know where your money is going. Secondly, you will unlikely to run out of cash if you control your expenses. And lastly, you can live a balanced life where you get to spend on the things you want, maybe with some delayed gratification where you may have to wait a few weeks or a few months, but you also can see your investments and cash savings grow. 4. Learn new skills. On one of my projects for a big shopping center, my client said to me that they are using a new scheduling software to keep track of all the activities that is happening on site. And if I have trouble using the said software, there is a third party that can help me out, but with a cost. And I said, heck no, I'm not paying someone else to run a software for me. Within a couple of weeks, I learned how to edit, move things around, interface with other programs, getting things in and out. I learned a new skill and didn't have to spend unnecessarily. The same goes to our everyday lives. Could we learn how to cook and meal prep instead of dining out? Are there any home improvements that we can learn to do ourselves instead of engaging a contractor? Some may say, well, I value my time, therefore I would rather spend the money, which is a fair point. But what I'm saying is that at least audit your daily routine and ask those questions. And finally, 5. Mindful of comfort zone. What I've learned when executing multi-million-dollar projects is that day-to-day tasks can become business as usual over the long period of time, where complacency kicks in. Just because something worked previously doesn't necessarily mean it will work today or in the future. We need to be mindful of the comfort zone. In fact, it is good to be uncomfortable sometimes because it means we are challenging ourselves and questioning if things could be better. Early this year, I've noticed that I've been with the same mobile phone network, the same home electricity provider, the same car insurance for the past 3+ years. And I started to do my own research to compare the market to see if there are any better deals. And true enough, I've managed to negotiate with my current providers and in some cases had to make some changes which saved me hundreds of dollars and gave me more bang for buck. This is when I realized I've been too comfortable with my current state. And if things are working, why change it? Initially, I felt it was too much work to be making phone calls and spending time to do the research. But looking back, it was worth every minute when I transferred some of those cost savings into my investments. The message from me is that let's be agile, be informed, be creative, and be disciplined to navigate the challenges of rising cost of living due to the painful interest rate rises. And that's it. I hope you've learned something new. Until then, signing off for now.